What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the Creative Rise podcast. We're so excited you are here for this special guest episode with Edward Lee, a good friend of Creative Rise. He was on the podcast a while ago, and it's actually really fun that we have this episode with him today where we get brought up to speed on where he's at in his business, the awesome things that he's doing, the incredible clients he's got that he's working for. It's absolutely insane what he's been building, and if you follow Ed, which I'm sure you already do, you know that he's an awesome guy and is a total open book on how he got where he is and the lessons that he learned in order to get there. So it's a really cool conversation.
Yeah, a ton of stuff on personal brand as a creative, and most importantly, just the lessons overall that he's learned over the last 8 years of building his creative business empire, if you want to call it that, which it is, which is so cool. So real quick though, before we get into the show, really excited, August 28th at 4:30 Pacific Standard Time, we are running a free workshop called the 6-Figure Creator Workshop. We're going to be giving you the 5 trends and tools that you can implement in the next 12 months to really grow your business. Here's what we're going to be covering in this free workshop: the top trends of the creators who are actually making 6 figures in 2023 and 2024, how to get more job opportunities for your business for less than $10 a day, the biggest do's and don'ts when it comes to pitching in the emails and DMs. I cannot wait to talk about that. The one change that 6-figure creators are making when it comes to what they're selling. So we're going to talk about your offers, how you can sell those better, and then how to build a brand that actually dominates in any niche. This episode is going to be a great insight into that. But if you want to come to the workshop, it's going to be like 2 hours long of that where you can engage with us and a lot of other creatives, which is going to be so fun. So August 28th, 4:30 Pacific Standard Time, totally free. Our gift to you. We'd love to see you there. There's always a couple hundred of you guys that show up. We cannot wait for that. All you got to do is go to the link in the description or go to creativerise.com/workshop, and you can get the link. You can sign up. You can register there, and then follow the steps to make sure you get it in your calendar. So we will see you there on the 28th. But super excited for this episode with our good friend Ed. Ed, thanks for being on the show, bro. It's always a blessing to have you on. So fun. We actually shot this live in his living room where his wife has just made a beautiful home. It's incredible.
Queen.
Yeah, she's a queen, and he's obviously a design king as well. So hopefully it's visually aesthetic for you if you're watching us on YouTube. But if you're not and you're just streaming this on any of the other platforms, enjoy it. Here we go. Here's our episode with Ed. Mr. Edward Lee, welcome to the show, brother.
Happy to be here.
Thank you for having us in your beautiful
I was going to say, we're saying welcome, but it's more like he's welcoming us into his home. So welcome to Ed's home.
Hey, real quick, first shout out. Shout out to Christine, your wife.
Shout out to my wife.
Because this is beautiful. And I know you're a big style guy too.
No.
Beautiful.
I take zero credit.
But you've got.
Look at this sculptured man with no shirt
That
on.
was your pick, huh?
This is shout out to Christine.
Is that you?
Yeah, because I went dropping on at Home Goods and I saw this naked man and I was like, let me buy that.
We got Edward Lee sitting on the couch here. We got his pup. Why don't you introduce your pup here?
This is Harlow.
Harlow is...
he's leaving. He's like, all right, I don't want
to... He's a Bernedoodle?
Bernedoodle.
Bernedoodle. Hey, great dog.
We love a dog guest.
He's been so awesome to hang with today.
Yeah.
Dude, welcome to the show. This has been probably, 2 years since you've been on the show for the last time. If you did not know, Ed was on the show back in 2022, I believe, which was super fun. That's actually been people have said that's one of their favorite episodes. So glad to have you back on. We're sitting here
a new favorite episode
in
coming.
Seattle area, where you're from, which is awesome. We actually just flew up this morning for something else originally, but we're like, hey, let's come a day early and come hang out and reconnect. Got a bomb pulled pork sandwich. You had some tacos. What'd you have?
Club sandwich.
Yeah, it's been a great day.
It's been a really great
honored.
day.
Honestly, you guys coming to my house, make yourselves at home, and also the fact that you come a day early just to hang with me, I'm super honored that you guys asked me to come on the pod, honestly.
We're excited for this conversation.
Yeah,
so
welcome back to the podcast.
Ed is no stranger to the podcast, obviously. And back 2 years ago, we asked you some of these rapid fire questions. But because we have some new people that are listening, let's revamp the rapid fire real quick for you. So Ed, where are you from?
I am based in the Seattle area, Seattle, Washington.
Seattle, Washington.
If you're stuck in an elevator, someone says, what do you do? What do you do? What's the pitch?
I am a filmmaker, content creator, and YouTuber.
Love it.
Heck yeah.
And how long have you been doing that for?
It's going to be 7 years next year.
7 years full time?
Full time, yeah.
Yeah,
So I've been doing it for like 10, but I would say full time with my own business, making my own money, making my own schedule, things like that. Almost 7 years.
7 years. That's awesome.
7 years of making that bank so your wife can buy these naked men sculptures, which is a great
People
house
that
feature. That's not a dig. That's actually
that are
like...
only listening are like, what is going on?
Again,
watch
guys,
the video, y'all.
Guys,
watch
you gotta watch the video.
Thank you. Ed, why should they be watching the video? Because I keep telling them, I'm like, you gotta watch on YouTube.
The video podcasts are elite. I don't know if you're listening to this, I totally get it. If you're driving or you're cooking or you just want to hear an audio, I respect that. But for me personally, like even as a podcast host, but even like listening to podcasts, I love the videos. Like just something about matching a face to their voice.
100%.
It makes a way more of a different impact in terms of how the message is hitting you. So
Totally.
If you're driving, don't risk your
out.
life. But
No,
if you're
exactly.
cooking,
Shout out to
though, dude, if
YouTube.
you're cooking, risk the meal. Watch the video. Watch the video podcast as you cook.
burn that steak.
Great.
Burn
Burn
that
that
steak.
steak.
Yes. Hey,
Okay.
if you're cooking, by the way, maybe you like cooking. I like cooking too. I actually just created a new social called Average Joe Barbecue. This is a total left turn.
Wait, yo, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Average Joe Barbecue, because I'm really into smoking
Okay,
meats and stuff
okay.
like that. So if you're into barbecue, come follow me over there. But all right, Ed, this is Christy's favorite question. What's a flop you've had? What is something we're going to talk about?
Embarrassing
We're going to talk about some
moment.
great things that you've accomplished in your career and a lot of what you've learned through that. But humanize yourself for a second. Like, what has Edward Lee flopped on?
A flop for me, I mean, I've had so many, I don't even know where to start. I'm definitely not as polished in real life as you probably see in social media, like as everyone is. I definitely have some things that I've not done the best job at. One flop that is kind of funny though, is when I used to do real estate videos. As you know, with the real estate typical video, you go in like a smooth shot of the room, it's like in slow motion, it's like a wide angle shot. I show up one day, drove like an hour and realized I didn't have my gimbal.
Oh.
But you know, obviously I don't want the client to think that I don't know what I'm doing. So thank goodness for Sony's image stabilization, because I try to play it off.
When was this?
This was probably
Like recent?
No.
Or okay,
no,
so
like 3-4 years ago.
So like image stabilization was even worse.
yeah,
back
it was
then.
even worse. Yeah.
So this
So-
isn't like,
You're like,
oh,
this
today.
is like a really cool new trend that I'm doing, this handheld real estate
yeah.
trend.
At some point, I basically was like, oh, I forgot my gimbal, but I could still pull the shoot off, so don't worry
Yes.
about it. I try to like obviously damage control.
Yes.
So flip that in active mode on image stabilization, and your boy was doing the whole T-Rex arms, and I was like gliding through the room. I had the whole knee movement.
The knee walk.
Yeah,
She always
I'm
makes
like,
fun of me for the knees.
I'm doing the knee walk, and I had like my arms were gimbals that day.
Oh,
and hey,
man.
the video got pulled off. But wow,
there
that
we
day I was
go.
like, we're trying to do a real estate video with no gimbal.
Yes.
That was crazy.
Putting it to the test.
The most relatable piece about that, I forgot my gimbal before too, but that's not even the most relatable piece. It's the fact that you have to try and like convince the client that nothing's wrong. You're like, no, it's
Yeah,
sweet,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
You know, you're like flipping through your
Freaking
camera
out
menus for like
inside.
5 minutes trying to figure out how to like maximize the stabilization.
Oh my gosh.
It's the worst feeling when you do have a flop like that and then you have to like try and play it off like you didn't just flop on something.
Yeah.
Forgetting
Oh.
stuff on shoes is the worst.
There's so many like that though. I mean, like always forgetting stuff when I was first starting out. Like literally, there's so many. Like if there's a horror story that you've had, it's probably not that bad. If you're
Yes.
listening to this, there's
Yes.
probably people who have had way worse horror stories. So
Oh yeah.
Well, while we were setting up and talking about that question, you were like, "Oh, well, at least like I didn't ever like miss a wedding or something." And I'm sitting in the back corner setting up a camera, being like, "Yeah, like who would do that?"
Joey did.
I've
Joey
shared before on the
fully did.
podcast that I actually did miss a wedding. Anyways, Ed, okay, so
R.I.P.
you have collectively known Christy and I for probably the last 5 years. But you and I actually met for the first time in a gas station on the southeast corner of Iceland.
yeah.
Take us back. I want to start there. Take us back to that year. That was a really big pivotal year for you. Take us back to what you were doing and then what that year consisted of, because I believe that was the year you made the jump to go full time, correct?
Yeah. it
That
was like-
following year,
it was-
within that
yeah,
12 months of us
within
meeting
that
in the
12
gas
months,
station. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Which is such a wild opener every time we are reminded of that. That like, such a cool way to intro someone. Like, yeah, we met in a gas station in Iceland, in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, going back to that year, I was obviously working at a startup, Rhino Camera Gear. Not sure if anyone knows what that is, but they used to make motorized sliders. I think they still do.
I saw one 2 days ago in a camera store.
Yeah, it's really popular. People use it on set all the time, especially for interviews. You know, when the shot's moving very
Yeah.
slowly, like typically those are on motorized sliders. So I used to work at a company that did that. I did social media, marketing. I wore all the hats. I mean, it was like a startup. And I loved that job. I learned a lot at that job. That was my first creative job, because before that job, I did all the things that us people are normal job. Like I worked at Starbucks, Zoomies, Nordstrom. I worked at my parents' store. They have like a sandwich shop. I was slinging coffee for a little bit. Like I've done everything.
Yeah.
And I finally stumbled upon a job that unleashed some of my creativity, which is great. But that was a pivotal year for me because it kind of showed me, one, just running a business, what that's like, but also I've made some pretty invaluable connections. When I was with Joey, when we met in that Iceland gas station, for those who are familiar, obviously, with the GOAT, Peter McKinnon, and also Maddie Hapoya, like we were on a trip for that brand I work for with those two individuals.
Yeah.
And so obviously, 2017 Ed picking up a camera for the first time, learning about B-roll. I'm with Peter McKinnon. I'm like geeking.
The king of
I'm
B-roll.
I'm literally geeking. Like if I ever get a chance to be on like a podcast with him or something, I'll let him know that I was like fanboying so hard.
Oh, I love that.
But I think I learned a lot in that process. That year was a lot of like growth, a lot of learning. How to act. I think that's people knock sometimes about having a full-time job. They're like, man, I want to do my own thing. I want to make my own schedule. I want to wake up when I want. I want to make my own money, which is true. But for me, like zoning in on that year, as you asked, I learned so much invaluable professional work culture, like how to present yourself in meetings, how to talk to a higher up manager, how to manage a partnership that's not necessarily within your company. Like all those things you really only learn by working somewhere. So if someone's listening to this podcast right now and they're thinking, man, I want to do my own thing, honestly, I would advise you to learn as much as you can in the job that you currently have.
Absolutely.
And like learn the professional skills because those all carry over into your own business.
Totally.
So that's kind of where I was at that year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. You were like being where your feet were. You were like, I'm in this job. I'm going to maximize it while I'm here, right? Rather than just wasting your days wishing you were somewhere else. But dude, yeah, so random. I mean, I walk into a gas station and it's Peter McKinnon, Maddie Hapoya, and you in a random gas station in southeastern Iceland. And I was like, dude, this is hilarious. And I'd been DMing with, I think, Maddie back and forth because we were both in Iceland. We have a ton of mutual connections from back home because we're both from the same area, running some of the same circles. So that was a wild event. And then to see, what is that? That's like 7 years ago? 6 years ago? Yeah, 6 years ago.
Yeah, that's
almost
wild.
6 years ago because it was October, I think, of 2017. So crazy.
Time flies.
7 years ago, yeah. But it's so cool to see where you've come. So why don't we start? Let's jump to a really high note. You have had some incredible, big, fun, you would call them like mountaintop brand deals in the last couple of years that probably 2017 Ed would have never, we were just at lunch saying Ed would have never believed that you would have gotten some of these deals. Why don't you tell me what one of your favorite deals has been? And then if you can, break it down a little bit, because one of my favorite things to do is expose to people how these deals actually work, because it's so easy for somebody on the other side of a screen to be watching you get a deal with a massive company, the North Face, or these massive major airline companies, these couches we're sitting on right now, and they just think, well, that's incredible, like that's cool for Ed, I could never do that. Break down maybe what the deal was, like what you did for them, and then maybe how the deal came about. What's been your favorite deal over the years?
So yeah, there's a lot of notes on that question. I'll probably start it with how these deals typically come in the door. I think this is something that, it is common knowledge if you're in the industry, but for those who don't know, like if you're starting out as a content creator or you want to start working with more brands from like, I guess, an influencer level, most of the deals don't come directly from the brand. And I think that that's something that is often like missed.
Yeah.
When you work with a big household name brand, it's very rare that like the person that works there is going to email individual creators saying, let's work together. It happens, but it's super rare. Most of the time, these household name brands work through agencies. And these agencies get, let's say, a budget of $1 million or $500,000 or $100,000, and that agency takes that money that the big household name brand has now given them to deploy an influencer campaign. And so typically, most of the big creators that you watch are working with really big brands. They're in communication with some sort of agent or agency to bring them a deal like that.
Yeah.
So that's something to think about if you're trying to land more deals. It's not necessarily cold emailing these big brands. It's to find the agencies that these big brands work with. So that's number one tip. But as far as like what it looks like once that comes through the door, it varies. It's across the board. It's the same thing when you're working with freelance clients. There's like mom and pop businesses, there's big businesses, There's different types of deliverables that are being sent. So there's no one size fits all for brand deals. But most notably, probably one of the biggest ones that I'm proud of that I've worked on is there's a couple that I've, in the last year or two, that I'm super stoked about. I honestly don't even know how I got to this position.
Yeah.
But like one of them is probably Lincoln, like the car brand. And that was definitely one where I said, like, what? Like, why me? Like, why is Lincoln hitting me up?
Yeah.
Or the agency, as I just explained, that works with Lincoln, why are they hitting me up for a piece of content? And I remember thinking to myself, okay, this is crazy. Like, maybe this is a fake email, you know? So
You gotta tap the
You, like,
email on
tap
the
No,
top.
yeah.
It's like Lincoln at like something
It's like
gmail.com.
Yes.
Nike social media at gmail.com.
Yeah.
You're like, whoa, Nike just hit me up.
Yeah, that's another hot tip. If the email is not looking sharp, then it is probably not real.
Yeah. So I mean, that's one thing that obviously you need to vet out. You know, always. That's my one big tip, side tip for creators is always be skeptical. Like, it's a good thing. Like, you always want to be skeptical. Never like take things for face value. Like, there's always, in the business of any business, there's always going to be an exchange. No one's just going to throw you a bone like absolutely for free. Like, even if it seems like it's for free, there's something on the back end,
There's
which
an
doesn't,
angle.
yeah, it doesn't always have to be a bad angle. There's always an angle. And so for me, when I got the deal, they were like, yeah, we want to work with you. We love your content. We want to give you a car for 3 months. I was like, what? You guys want to give me a car for 3 months to make reels? Like, literally saying that in 2024 may not sound that crazy, but 2017, Ed, as we were just talking about, if you're talking about
Wouldn't
making
believe it.
a 30-second vertical video for a brand like Lincoln, and I get to keep the car for 3 months, I mean, that was like a crazy deal for me.
That's awesome.
And then also, I most recently worked with like Delta Airlines. It's actually,
So cool.
at the time of this podcast, that's like kind of in the process of happening. But again, another one of those like, oh my gosh, like why me? Why me kind of thing. So maybe we can dive into that a little bit of like
let's do it.
what
Yeah.
I've kind of thought could be the elements that led up to this point. Because I, by no means, if you're listening, like I don't have like 1 million followers. I don't have like crazy clout. I don't live in LA. Like I'm that's not my brand. So whenever these like household name brands approach me, I'm always fascinated. Like, what metric are you looking at to follow through with a deal like this with someone like myself? So it's
What do
always
you think
been a
that is?
curiosity. Honestly, and this is gonna be a fun one to talk about because I truly think that the quality of my content has spoken volumes to brands. And that's really encouraging. At least it would be encouraging for me if someone told me that a year ago, because I think people fall into the trap that if you are a content creator wanting to work with brands, you need 1 million followers. And that just like isn't true.
Yeah.
Because there's another dimension of the game that you can play, and that's the quality game. And if you can bring a quality that like no other influencer is bringing them to the table, you can lock in those deals. No matter how many followers, you have 5,000 followers.
Yep.
Because what they're after is, more like a side tip, is potentially paid usage of the high quality content.
Yes.
So they don't necessarily need you to post about it, but they want access to that high quality content with a relatable person in a high quality format. Because obviously there are gonna be creators out there that have 1 million followers that shoot on their iPhone. They can shoot a campaign in their bathroom and do a selfie camera, and that's what converts. But for people that don't have that kind of personality, which I would say is like 90% of the people, you need to like have a different angle. And for me, I've always felt like, because I shoot video content like professionally or as for client work, I feel like brands see the quality that's in the content, and there's always like that, regardless of the engagement, regardless of the followers, like we want to see our brand like in that type of quality.
Yeah.
Obviously metrics help. I'm not going to say like followers don't matter.
Right.
But for me personally, I think having like trying to push the boundaries of high quality content that's branded has always been the thing that got me the biggest brand deals, the most household name brands, and all of the above.
Well, I feel like it also just speaks to the fact that you've built a brand. Like, you actually have a brand rather than just maybe, chasing shiny object syndrome of trends of what a business looks like, or, that kind of stuff. I feel like you are a very clear, clean brand. And I feel like you, through and through, push that through. And so what do you feel like the play is for someone who's like, okay, I'm getting started. how do I create a brand? Like, how do I stand out? Because I think that's what your brand does. It makes you stand out. What's your advice for someone who's like, I want to build a brand, but like, where do I start? Like, how do I figure out what my brand even is?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think personal branding can be like branding in general. It's kind of like this, sometimes can feel like this pixie dust that people they throw it around a lot, like branding, personal branding. Like, what does that actually mean if you capture it in a bottle? For me, I think personal branding is just the way that you are perceived. Like, if people associate keywords to you, you're on the right track. So if someone thinks of like Joey Spears or Christy Spears or Creative Rise, it comes with a set of keywords. It's like, oh, it's like educational, it's value, it's like polish. Like, those are some keywords that come to my mind. Like, if that's happening with your brand, then you're on the right track.
Yeah.
If someone says your name in the context of what you do, and they're like, I don't even know what the keywords would be.
Everything.
Yeah, they're like, I do everything. I shoot video. Shooting video is not a keyword.
Yes.
Shooting video is the how, is what you do. But it's not the keyword. It's not the descriptor. It's not the description of you as a brand.
It's brilliant.
So for me,
it's like coming up with your own keywords even before you build your brand. Like,
Exactly.
what do I want to be known for? What are those keywords?
Which is what
Crafting
you
it.
do, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing about me that thinks that the studio upstairs that everyone sees you through, the lifestyle that you portray in your content, everything. There's no way that anyone thinks that is not intentional. Like, you've built all that with intention. You didn't just walk up into an office and say, you know what? Those random things I slapped together from Home Goods, it actually looks decent in here. No, like, it's been something you've intentionally built, right? Which is so important. So that's brilliant. I was going to ask the question along the lines of brand. How do you navigate how much you? I think the question I'm trying to figure out is like how much do you borrow from somebody else's brand when you're piecing together your own versus how much do you feel like you've got to like just figure out for yourself? Because I think maybe you would think 2017 Ed was in here. I think 2014 Joey was in here, where it's like, okay, like I know where I think I could be in 5, 6, 7 years from now, but like I see the Peters, I see the Maddies, I see the, I think about a lot of the guys that I grew up, because I grew up in the outdoor space, shooting, and a lot of my work and early career was in the outdoor space. So I'm thinking, Burkhardt, like Chris Burkhardt and Alex Stroll, all those guys, like how do you think you positioned yourself off of that when you were younger, earlier in your career, and what's your perspective on that now?
Yeah, I think definitely year 5-ish of running my own thing, I think I was able to find a stride and like, okay, this actually feels pretty like Edward Lee coded. Like this feels like it's me. But even then, that's like it's a constant refining process. And I think that anybody who says that they don't take inspiration from other creators is just lying.
Yeah.
Like
Totally.
nobody is original. Like everybody
Yes.
takes their inspiration from somewhere, whether that's an author, a creator, a book, or a movie. Like nobody's truly original.
Yeah.
But in the same way, that's also why we have the creator like niche. Like creativity is subjective. Like creativity is up to like your own person who's making content. And so I think to answer your question though, for me, it's always been about, okay, what do I like and what actually comes natural?
Yeah.
When it comes to making my own image, like I heard this on another podcast with Christo, another friends who are on a podcast, the 505, they have like a different podcast. Those guys are rad. And Christo was on a podcast. He was saying the influencer world or social media in general, they're too often pointing the camera at like their best corner in their house. Or they're pointing the camera in that one corner of their studio that actually looks like a vibe.
Yeah.
But the 90% they don't show the world. And that really hit with me because I realized that like if you have a brand, if you're trying to become your own style, it's a lifestyle through and through. You know what I mean? Like chances are if you are interested in something in your content and it shows, the reality is, are you actually interested in that in your personal life?
Yeah.
Or are you just doing it for the content?
Yeah.
Are you doing it because someone does it and it works well for them?
Right.
And I think that's something I'm constantly thinking about, and why that wraps into my own personal brand is that I genuinely try to take pieces that I like. So for example, this is a really small example. I'm gonna turn my phone on Do Not Disturb because it's going off. But a small example is like I'm wearing a black t-shirt, right? I would say my personal brand part of it is that I love the color black. It's a really simple example. But if you came to my house and you saw like my home office or the car I drove, the stuff that I don't necessarily post on social,
It's black.
it's black.
It's all black.
Like
Your door?
Can confirm.
Yeah.
Your dog?
Your dog's a little bit
my
black as
my
well.
dog is the same color as my home office. Like,
Actually, bro.
it's
You
like
are
black.
on brand, Harlow.
Harlow is like the exact color.
It's like black,
white, the
gray,
grays.
white.
Yeah.
That's great.
And it's
That's so good.
It's a small example, but I say that to say it's because you could tell I truly enjoy it. The problem that I see with people trying to build their personal brands online is they're like, oh, that creator that I love, he loves black.
Ed's doing that.
I'm
I
gonna
should
go
do it.
wear black. When in reality, their favorite color is blue.
right.
So that's where I'm saying where people get the mix up. You need to really like find out what you like, which could start off someone else, but you need to truly find what you like. Then you build a personal brand off of that. That's the
Yes.
only way you can show up authentically. That's the only way
100%.
it'll show up in the way that you want and that you'll like last. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's good. I like it. Okay, let's go back to some of the brand deal stuff. I want to talk like the business behind some of this. So, Ed, one of the things that I think is so fun about the podcast, and this is one of the things we just love about Creative Rise, is exposing what people are actually making money off. When a creator sees you online, yes, they're going to see some of the deals you post, some of the brand deals you post, but what's so fun is to give them kind of the behind the scenes on like, what are the actual offers you are selling to people? So can we talk about the Delta deal? Because one of the things I think is cool about the Delta deal, we were just at lunch talking about this, and you said you're so stoked that your brand is at a place where you can sell 90-second vlogs and the
Yeah.
clients love them.
Yeah.
Why do you think these big brands are actually like really stoked on paying you for vlogs, 90-second vlogs?
Yeah, I think it's because going back to the quality of the content thing, and I think when you create content in relation to getting bigger brand deals, and this we can go into some of like the numbers and whatnot, but I truly think that if you're posting content and you're not getting brand deals yet, you need to be forward thinking in, okay, let's say a brand does approach me, how would they naturally integrate into my content? Let's say you're not there yet and you don't have like brands knocking on your door. Do you have content that, let's say a brand did knock on your door, can you organically integrate it into what you're currently doing? And if your answer is no, then you might not be prepped to be taking on brand deals.
Yeah.
Because it's every creator knows that like you're kind of known for one thing, and sometimes you know when like the creator just got a brand deal and like this whole piece of content they just made is totally off script
Left field,
from
yeah.
what they're normally used to doing. And like sometimes it's a cash grab. I've definitely done it. Every creator has done it. Sometimes you just do it to make money, but other times it's a lack of brand direction. And so for me, going back to the 90-second vlog, when I did that, my first one, I've done like 9 now or something, or 8. It's basically a vertical video. It's a 90-second vlog of something happening, whether that's like an event or a story or doing a project or whatever the case is. But I remember thinking to myself when I did the first one, like, yo, this is a perfect content format to fit in an integration. Because think about it, on the long form side, like YouTube, people always talk about integration, dedicated videos. There's big money there. Like if you're listening to this and you are thinking like, oh, is YouTube worth it? I can tell you right now, people are making like $50K for a video for a brand integration. Like that's insane to me. Like to have that kind of money from an integration is wild. But the reason why I say that is I was thinking, how can I take some of that element and move it into like short form? And the 90-second vlog is like a perfect format for that because I'm selling essentially a slot of ad within the 90 seconds. Instead of being like making a 30-second ad basically where it's just only about the brand. Like something that's maybe not as relatable. So now I make a vlog, integrate the brand, serve my audience, serve myself because they're super fun to make. It's just kind of like it hits on all the notes. So that's kind of what it looks like from a deliverable standpoint.
Yeah. What do you think it is that the brand loves about the 90-second vlog? Why is it worth it for the brand? Because I think this is what's fascinating is hearing what certain creators are selling in terms of their offers. Like, why is it attractive to a brand?
Yeah, I think it comes down to the fact that the brand, there's 2 types of money that is spent on influencer marketing, right? There is, like I said earlier, there is the influencer route where like you just have such crazy reach that you could literally shoot it on a potato and talk about it and people will buy it.
Yes.
Kardashian effect.
Right? Yeah. Right. And like the
Yes.
brand's objective on that one is to make sales. Like they want to sell the crap out of a product.
Yes.
And they want to see that money working. They want to invest money and have that money come back. I also think that there are some brands though, especially what's funny is once you get into the higher tier of the brand, like the ones that are household name, the ones that like we hear about, we talk about with our friends and family, they care less and less about the conversion point. Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to build brand image.
Yeah.
So they're not so focused like, for example, like Delta Airlines, for example. Like me making a 90-second reel, like they're not banking on me like selling more seats on planes.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
that's not their conversion point. Like
Yep.
obviously if that's a byproduct of what happens, most of the time these brands are not giving me a link in bio to sell something.
Right.
What they're after.
Hey Ed, here's your link in bio.
Yeah,
Sell
yeah,
some
yeah.
Delta One.
Yeah, exactly.
Some
Make some
$10,000
commissions
first class.
off of those
Exactly.
10K seats.
Exactly. Which does happen. I mean, like,
Yeah,
it's very
totally.
common. Like, LinkedIn, they had trackable links and all those things. But
Yep.
for the most part, a lot of these brands, what they're after is cultivating more brand awareness and brand, like, reputation. And when they find creators that have high quality content, have a lifestyle that kind of fits their avatar, they want to pay them good money just to showcase their brand in a way that makes you on the receiving end watching it like, that is cool that that brand is doing that, or that is
Yeah.
cool that this person, that's kind of lifestyle that I would want to have.
Yeah, totally.
And so, yeah, I think the brand appeal, to answer your question, is the brand awareness and brand reputation. And I think it's funny because in a way, as you climb up in the size of revenue that you can get or land some of these deals, you would think that it would get harder, but in a way, it's like the same thing as when you have a $5,000 client that has no revisions, this is a pass, versus the $50 client who's like, can we get 10 revisions?
Yeah,
Can we reshoot?
Absolutely.
Like, it's the same concept, but just in
Yeah.
a different niche.
Yeah, 100%. I love this topic. I love the idea of brand recognition,
Yes.
reputation, awareness, all the words that you're using. I think it's a beautiful play because you're right. For someone with a really, really distinct, I'll use the word distinct, content style, they're trying to just go, how do we associate ourselves with people who look like our avatar, as you just said? So if you're sitting here and you are not someone who is working with the brands you want to be working with yet, Ed posed this question earlier, but are you actually the type of person that they would see as their avatar? Like, are you your ideal client's ideal client?
Yeah.
We've done a podcast on that before. Are you your ideal client's ideal client? If the answer that's no, then you shouldn't be confused on why maybe your ideal client's not wanting to work with you, right? Because they are trying to create recognition and reputation through partnering with you and your content style in order to bring that onto their brand. Now, the other side of that, though, is there's probably somebody listening going, but Ed, I don't have 100,000 followers like you. Speak to the person that's got, 2,000 followers. Does this still matter for them?
100%. I think using myself as a case study, obviously no one's forced to, but if you want to, you can scroll back, way back on my IG. Like, just go back all the way down to 2017 or when I met Joey. Like, there's content around that time period. You will see there's a clear shift. Like, you start to see when the brand deals start to come in. And you get to see what content I was posting to what content I started to post, and then how it's evolved over the years. Like, it's actually a really good practice that I find myself doing often too. It's like, if I want to research about someone, I don't really care what they posted last week. I'm looking at what they posted 2 years ago.
He's getting in the deep, dark web for you.
Which is honestly a great way to just market research, because
Absolutely.
oftentimes we're looking at creators who are doing this, crushing it, making a ton of money, all these things that you probably hear every single day. But the reality is everyone starts somewhere. And the brand deals, I did the whole spectrum. I throw out words I know I don't throw out words like Lincoln or Delta or some of these brands like North Face. I don't throw that around lightly. I know that I've worked my way to get to that point. Because previously I used to work with the no-name brands. I did product for content. I didn't get a single dollar for a while. I just traded product for content and did that to pad my Instagram and sponsored posts, but I just got the product for free. Things like that. But I think people forget that is all part of the process. You don't just wake up one day, you're like, I'm gonna start landing brand deals and crushing it. Like, it just doesn't work that way. Even me, like self-reflecting, I think there's still so much more to gain, so much more to grow. These are all just like parts of the ladder, and everyone's just climbing on a ladder. But you have to like literally pick a point and just start climbing. Like if you keep looking at it and being like, I want to get to the top of the ladder and not actually climb it, is going to be extremely difficult. You're waiting for like a silver bullet. You're waiting for like a miracle to happen to like somehow plop you at the top for no reason.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work like that.
What's something that you used to believe really mattered when it came to landing brand deals that you realize it doesn't matter?
That's a really good question.
Or like, what's something you used to do thinking it would give you a result and you realized that actually doesn't really work that well, or that's not, or maybe not relevant now. Maybe it used to be relevant and now it's no longer relevant. Just to help people not get off ramps when they're really just trying to get on, you know?
Yeah, that's a good question. I like that question. I think early on, a myth that I had in my head was I need my website dialed, which is all true. Everything I'm about to say, by the way, are true statements, but I thought that they were everything. Like, I need my website dialed, I need the bulletproof sales pitch, I need the perfect cold email template, I need the perfect client experience, like that feels like functional and everything is like the client makes me I look professional in the eyes of the client. Like, I always thought there's gotta be some sort of discovery call line, or there's got to be some sales pitch that just gets these brands in the door. That's all not true. Like, it is true to a certain extent,
Right.
but this is kind of where I think there is a gap in the market, and this is kind of where I want to insert myself and like help creatives. Is imagine you have like all this wealth of knowledge and resources of like the perfect sales pitch, the perfect pitch deck, all that stuff that you hear about all the time. But if you don't have the like personal brand built, all those efforts are wasted. Like, everything is wasted. Nothing will work as effectively. It's always gonna be half-baked if you don't have a personal brand. Like, you know, it's almost, the way I like to put it like this. Imagine you go, I just thought of this right now on the spot, but it's probably a good fit. Imagine you go into like a car dealership, right? You go into a car dealership and the salesperson is so good. Like, they know all the hacks. They know how to pull at the heartstrings. They know how to pull at like your emotional things. Like, you know, they know exactly what to say on how to get you to buy a car. But you walk in and like the dealership is kind of like a dump, low key. Like, like it's just not as much of a vibe. It's not that good, all those things. And so like your perception of like the dealership now is different. Because you have all these like tactics that they're using on you, but you're like, this is not matching up to what I believe is like a high quality luxury dealership, right? Now, on the contrary, you walk into a dealership that's like, you walk in, the moment they greet you, they give you a bottle of water, they sit you down, the front office is nice, the people are awesome. Then you sit down with the salesperson and they bust out all those tactics on you. Your whole perception of that nicer dealership is just different.
Yeah, who you buying from?
Yeah.
And so that's why I approach my personal brand that same way, where like the tactics could be the same, but how your brand is perceived before those tactics are implemented is the differentiating factor, in my opinion, between you know, content creators who are just getting by in business and creatives versus the ones that are absolutely crushing it. Because the way that they are perceived, they take it so seriously. They understand like their reputation is important and how people view them, and that is what brands want. That's what brands want to see, taking their brand seriously. Because if you don't take your brand seriously, how can a brand expect you to take their brand seriously?
Yeah. And what's so cool about personal brand too is when you do build a personal brand like you have, and like we see so many others, and I'm sure everyone can come to mind and think of a semi-cringy influencer that posts an ad that's absolutely horrible and it looks horrible and it's just filmed on an iPhone, it's not even edited, and yet they're getting paid a ton of money to do something like that because they've built a personal brand.
Exactly.
It can forgive so many like quote unquote business sins if you have a personal brand, for sure. But I like that also your personal brand's important because it threads through every single aspect. It threads through your cold pitch, it threads through your website, it threads through all of those things. And when it's not just copy and paste it off of somebody else, but it's like, how do you actually infuse that into every aspect of what you do to make everything feel very seamless? I think is what people who really are crushing it are doing, which is what I think you are doing and what everyone can learn of. Like, it feels like your brand touches everything you do, which is really, really powerful.
Yeah,
it's good.
So, Ed, you've talked about the long-term play of a personal brand. You've talked about how long-term the benefits of a personal brand are huge. You've talked about how 2017 Ed would have never believed where 2024 Ed is, the deals he's getting to work with, the household name brands he's getting to work with, and you're saying it's attributed to your personal brand, which I totally believe in, and I would agree with.
Yeah.
What's the shortcut for people that need money now? They don't have 7 or 8 years to build a personal brand.
They got a family to provide
for. The person who's like,
got...
hey, I'm trying to make this my full-time thing. Like, what are the cut all the fluff? Don't worry about this now. It's important, but don't worry about it now. This is the most crucial aspects of building a personal brand. Nothing else matters if you get these things wrong. What are those for you?
I would say you need to obviously have a community of some sort, and you guys know how important this is. You need some sort of support system where you can ask questions. I think trying to figure everything out on your own is extremely difficult. That's a shortcut. A shortcut is knowing someone who's done what you've done.
100%.
Yeah.
Period. That is the shortcut.
Yeah.
So whether you're trying to make more money as a creative, whether you're trying to land more brand deals, all those things, if you find someone who's been doing it or has done it, that's the shortcut. So make connections with people like that. Now, personally speaking, when it comes to how to actually take the shortcuts, I always think of, again, like the branding is a big play, but a lot of it as far as what that means from a day-to-day, like what does that mean? How do you actually build the brand? Of course, it's like, yes, keywords, which we talked about, but think about punching above your weight. I think that sometimes, a lot of times people, when they're starting their own business, let's say you don't make 6 figures yet, right? Let's say you make 30K a year, or it's a side hustle. Maybe you're making less than 50K a year doing creative work. Oftentimes you'll see creatives like they move or post or act like someone who only makes that much. And like, that's not the way you want to do it. If you want to make 100,000 or 150 or 200,000 doing something you love, you need to be acting like that before it actually happens. It's the only way it actually happens. Because a lot of times people will think, oh, I'm not there yet, so I'm gonna act like, I'm gonna give myself a pass. Like, this reel is good, but yeah, next to this person that's been doing it for a long time, it's trash. But I'm gonna still post it because it's good for me, because it makes me feel good, which, power to those people. I'm not saying that's the bad thing. Like, there's a psychological element of like consistency and getting content out.
You're just saying if you want to grow
I'm
quick.
saying if you want to grow quick and you're not here for like all the mental stability and you really want the shortcut, even if some of your mental health goes with it. But jokes aside, like, you want to look at your content, stack it next to someone who's crushing it, and be like, where is the discrepancy here? That's what I used to do, like early on, like back in like, 2017, 2018, early Ed days. I would look at people on Instagram or YouTube that were crushing it, absolutely crushing it. And then I would look at my content and be like, why does mine look like this? And why does theirs look like this? Like, I would get really detailed with it.
Peter's B-roll is so buttery, dude.
I'm like, why does his B-roll look so good? Why does mine look like
all of us in 2017?
Ours was shot on like a potato. Like, why does this look so bad?
Yeah.
But as you learn with any niche, it's actually not just with content creation, it's literally anything. If you can reverse engineer what the people are doing that are doing really, really good at it, you naturally improve your skills and you naturally grow into where you want to end up. That's the shortcut.
What do you, I was gonna
love
say,
that.
what's your opinion on like volume? So something that I feel like I see other creators, and I think of people in the industry where you're like, oh, this person is like the industry top. Everyone knows them. They're the ones that are getting all the deals. And then all of a sudden someone, not necessarily younger by age, but younger in business, surpasses them. But it seems like it's because they're just out there more. They're doing more. They're posting more. They're actually getting the eyes from volume with quality, right? Not in sacrifice of quality. What's your opinion on that? Because I know you come, like, you're like, quality is king. That is it. What's your opinion on volume when it comes to growing your business, especially online?
Yeah. I think it honestly just comes down to a personality thing. Same thing as I was saying earlier in the pod, like, if you don't actually like black, don't say you like black. If your favorite color is blue, say it's blue. It's the same thing with like the volume question. It's like if you're not the type of person that will spend a week on a reel to be really proud of it on Monday when you post it after you spent 7 days on it, that doesn't really fire you up, then don't do that. If you're the type of person that needs to post like something quick and dirty every single day for 7 straight days and that fires you up, then you should do that.
Yeah, be who you are.
Be who you are,
Yeah.
like when it comes to the volume question. So that's why I think you need to be really in tune with like where you can be like the most productive. So for me, for example, like I'm not the type to post an iPhone reel like every single day on my phone and like just get it up to get up. I mean, I could probably still make it like pretty decent quality.
It would look
I
fire,
probably,
actually,
yeah, I
probably.
could probably make it like pretty decent quality, but
Yeah.
like for me, I would rather spend 7 days on like a really good 90-second vlog and post it on Monday and then not post for another 7 days. Like that's just kind of my cadence.
Yeah.
And that's what works for me.
Yeah.
So I would say like the volume versus quality question, it really comes down to your own personality. Like if you're the type that loves to sprint, you're the type that loves to like be in it,
Yeah.
then go that route. If you're the
Yeah.
type that you want to be more calculative, because you can't have both. I've realized it's really hard. You find some
One has to
businesses and
sacrifice.
brands like, it's very rare you'll find a creator or a creative who runs a business where they're like absolutely crushing it on both fronts. And I'm talking like they show up every single day, post every single day,
Yeah.
and their quality is at the same quality as someone who spends a year working on that one thing. Like you usually have to sacrifice one end. Either you're gonna go.
You have 3: sleep, quality, and volume.
Yes,
you can
yeah.
only pick maybe
pick
one
two.
or two.
Well, there's an actual like phrase for that. Like in business, there like when you hire someone, there's like speed, quality, and price or something, and like you can only have
Yeah,
two
you-
of
you can
those.
only
You
have two,
can't.
yeah, yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't have all 3 of them. It just doesn't work that way.
Right,
totally.
right.
Yeah. So same
Yeah.
thing with like content. I think that you can't have
good.
it all, but you need to figure out where your strengths are.
Yes. pick
And I
your
love what you're
strengths.
saying. Not one is better than the other.
Yeah.
Quality doesn't beat volume.
Right.
They actually both beat each other when you just isolate one and you choose one, right? Which is really
Yeah.
cool. But it's got to be dependent on the brand you're building, which is
Yes.
really cool. I love that. So
great.
going back to what you said a few minutes ago, where you were saying that you've got to start acting, for what you actually want to become. It's not a fake it till you make it thing.
No,
It's
no.
a do the things that these people are doing and
Yes.
watch yourself become who
Yes.
those people are. I literally just made a video about this yesterday.
Oh.
Literally yesterday.
Tell us about
and
it.
my line is always, because we talk about this all the time at Creative Rise, if you want to become a 6-figure business owner, you got to start doing the things 6-figure business owners do. You got to sell the things they're selling. You got to pitch the amount they're pitching. Like one of the conversations we have all the time is, hey, someone will say, I'm really struggling to get brand deals. What's the trick? I'll say, oh, cool. Like, how many brands have you pitched in the last 30 days? And they'll say, oh, like 1. And I'm like, and you got to know? They're like, yeah, I just got ghosted. I'm like, dude, you're going to get 2 responses for every 10 pitches you send out, and 1 of them might hire you. Like, you got to just start getting the reps, and you got to do the things 6-figure business owners do. We just had a guy in our last mastermind, shout out to Owen. Dude's awesome. He's from Montana, runs a company called Native Release. It's a content agency. And he's pitching an atrocious amount of brands. He made, guess how much money this dude made during the 6 weeks? Not in the year, just in 6 weeks. I want to give you a guess. He's pitching a ton.
100 grand.
That's a lot of money. You actually think 100 grand?
In 6 weeks?
In
Like
6 weeks.
closed deals.
In just 6 weeks. Cash collected.
Cash collected. Okay. Maybe cash collected in 6 weeks, maybe 30 grand.
98 grand.
Wow.
98 grand
In,
cash
like, cash
collected
collected.
in 6
Pitching
weeks.
fiend.
Bro, and it's because he just decided for 6 weeks, I'm going to do the things that 6-figure business owners do. He pitched like crazy. He really, really worked on his follow-ups with his pitches. So he wasn't just hitting a brand once. He was hitting them and then hitting them again to show them that he actually cares about working with them and solving their problem. And he
That's
did a bunch of other stuff. But the key is,
Shout out on.
shout out Owen. You
out
got to do the things. You got to do the things that 6-figure business owners are doing. You got to do them now if that's what you wanted to become, which is
Yeah.
really cool. So I love that you said that. That is so important. Here's a question I got for you, Ed. You and I both started our businesses roughly around the same time.
Yeah.
20 teens.
Which is
somethings.
crazy.
20 teens.
We
somethings.
joke about how you're a 50-year-old man in a young body.
I feel like you and I are both like ancients
You
in
guys
this
are
industry.
both a little bit ancient.
We are ancient.
Yeah, we're
dude.
like old souls a
We're
little
old
bit.
souls
Yeah.
Old souls
in
in
this
the
industry.
biz.
So
A little bit.
here's where I want to go with this question. You and I both started our businesses primarily at the same time. 2014 for me, around 2015, 16, 17 for you. I think there's a lot of people who feel like they missed the boat. And they go, well, you know, that's really cool. That's cool to hear about what Ed's doing. He's crushing it. I really love Ed's stuff. But I mean, Ed's been doing this since 2017. Or Joey, that's really cool. You talk about all these tips to grow your business and have a 6-figure business. That's awesome. You know, started making 6 figures when you were a teenager with a content agency. But dude, that was 2014. What do you say to the person who feels like they missed the boat, and no matter what they do, they're not gonna get the results that maybe some of the people they look up to got because they quote unquote missed the boat?
Yeah, I would say, I don't know, that's tough because I don't want to say it's all dandy and like the most like sexy answer that people want to hear is like, no, it's not too late. You can start right now and still build like everything, which I think is true. You could still, so there's 2 parts to my answer. The first part is, it's true. You can't discount the people that have started 10 years before you.
100%,
they are 10 years ahead.
Yes.
Period. So take that for what you will. You are behind that person now. The second part to that, though, is that it's still never too late to start. Like, if you just start, it will go. The thing about business, this is not just creative industry or anything. Think about business. Business will be forever. There's always going to be a trade in commodities. There's always going to be a service exchange for some sort of like currency. That is just an exchange of, that is what business is, exchange of value. So it's never too late to start anything. Now, everybody's circumstance is a little different. Obviously, if you started 10 years ago while you were in your room in high school, it's gonna be a lot easier to take risk because there's no risk. Like, you were literally living at home with your parents, or maybe you just don't have rent or whatever. But yeah, if you have a family, you have 2 kids, and you know, you have a cushy job, you don't want to full send and be like, I'm going to become a creative, or that's scary. But again, that's what happens when you didn't start 10 years ago. But the resistance doesn't mean that it's not possible. Like, there's always going to be opportunity. And I think that it's the same thing you hear on like interviews and stuff. People who get find companies and then get like acquired and sell them. Sometimes they start at 30. There's people who start business at 60 and get acquired. So like, it's never too late to start a business, but at the same time, you need to be aware that you may not have the same flexibility that you had maybe 10 years ago.
Your on-ramp's a little longer.
Totally. Here's the ironic thing, and I want to know if you agree with me.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when I'm talking to those people that say, well, Joey, you started a decade ago. This is my decade year. Like 2014 was the year that I started my business. This is my decade year. When they say, but Joey, you started a decade ago, part of me wants to go, bro, if I would have started in like the Instagram Reels, TikTok era, sometimes I wonder what my life would have been like if this was my first year and I had the just like fire and passion that we all had when we first started that was like unmatched. Like, what would my career look like if I would have had the exact same starting point that a lot of people are starting it with now? Would I be way ahead of where I am now? You know? So it's funny how the grass is always greener, right? Like, they look at us and go, oh, you guys started so long ago. You know, I don't know if I'd ever be able to build something to the size or even just the way that you guys have gotten to build it. And I find myself sometimes also looking at people going, but guys, like, this is a golden era. This is a gold era if you are a creative. Like, we just got off a call 2 days ago with a Facebook ads expert or a paid advertising expert. And he was talking about what a lot of brands are looking for right now. And he was talking about how the algorithms for all paid advertising are changing from less of a, your paid advertising is strictly all about how good your targeting is. That's what determines your ROI for your paid ads. Now it's shifting to an algorithmic style of paid ads where your targeting doesn't matter that much. The platforms will do your targeting for you. It's less manual targeting. Platforms do the targeting for you, but your creative is everything. So if your creative doesn't hit and people aren't actually stopping and watching your ad, Facebook will just stop showing your ad, which is not how it used to be. You could just pay for the views, right? Where now it's more of an algorithmic style to the advertising.
Reading the content.
And Christy and I looked at each other and went, oh my gosh, like,
this is great news
there
for creatives.
has never been a better time to be a creative because all these companies just lost the ability to spend more money and have more people see their stuff. Now they have to spend more money to make really good creative, which includes having to hire someone like Ed or hire somebody, you know, that we know through Creative Rise, any of the creatives we're connected to, in order for their creative to actually, their ads to actually do well. I'm like, there's never been a better time to be a creative than I believe now. I think there's more opportunity for it. I think the platforms are built to actually inspire and push creative careers forward, which is really cool. And I think people hit breaks faster than they used to. Like the amount of people that we see, I don't know if you agree with this, but the amount of people I see, and I love this because I've dedicated my life to helping creatives make money. So I love when I see a creative who you can tell picked up a camera for the first time, like literally 11 or 12 months ago, and they popped off because one video popped off, and now they're getting a ton of brand deals. They're working with brands or whatever, or even the wedding space, same thing. They had a reel go wild from the second wedding they ever shot, and now their entire wedding calendar for next year's booked out. I'm like, that is incredible. That would have been way harder to do in 2014 because we weren't in the same environments, right? The world has changed so much. The platforms have changed so much. How we get exposure has changed so much. So if you're someone who's just looking at Ed going, man, I just wish I would have started back when Ed started, be encouraged though that like this is a great time to start.
I agree.
Great time to start. I'm glad you agree with that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. And I think there isn't a better time to have gotten into content creation. And I think that in terms of like YouTube, social media, Instagram, everything, literally we are only getting started. And I think people forget that. Like when it comes to tech with like AI, with Meta and like their whole, and Apple and their Vision Pro and all the things that immerse you more into a screen, which kind of sucks because I do think that there's a measure of like we're taking away a little bit of humanity each time tech develops. However, for content creators, that's great, which means more people will be on screens. And so I think that there's definitely an element to be said of we are living through a gold rush of content right now.
Yeah.
Like they need, and the thing is, before, when you were a filmmaker or a videographer or whatever, content creators were typically not really a thing. First off, like content creation as like a niche was like very small. When brands needed video work or content, they were only looking for high quality stuff. So there was like not really a market for low quality or like people were getting started because you either
barrier to entry.
like the barrier
to put in years to get up to that quality to start getting even looked at.
Exactly.
To be,
so when a brand is looking for pieces of video, they're typically looking for like something that looks like a commercial, like a TV commercial. That's what everyone's striving for, which makes sense because a lot of the like people who started in content creation, let's say like 10 years ago, they all started out as like filmmakers. They did a lot of like B-roll, weddings, like a lot of stuff that made it look like it was very high quality. Now you can make the shortcut because brands actually are looking for iPhone videos. They're looking for more relatable UGC content. So it's like that right there. I mean, you don't even have to know how to make a movie or you don't need to know how to shoot a cinematic interview and you can still make a healthy six-figure business making 100%. iPhone content. And that, I agree with you, was not around when we were starting out. Like if you're telling me I could shoot with this phone and go make $100,000 shooting like reels, said like 2017, I mean, that would have been crazy.
We're all looking at our iPhone 4s going, someone's telling me in the future I'm going to be able to make $100,000.
Looking at an iPhone 4 camera, like, that's crazy.
A 480 on this?
Yeah. So it is, it's crazy, man. Like if you're a content creator listening to this, and you feel like I don't have the right camera or it's too late or like whatever, to be honest, like it's all excuses at this point because
just start.
Everyone is, there's a niche for everyone in this content creator economy right now. Like you can shoot on a phone and make money. You can shoot on a Red camera and make money. You know, you can shoot in weddings, you can make money, or you can literally do at-home content, never leave your house a foot out the door, and get products sent to you and make money. Like
even you can do no-face content.
You can do no-face content.
That's a huge thing. Here's something that Christy says all the time, and I wonder if you agree with it. She says, Christy often says, people massively underestimate the power of 6 months of dedication to something and where your life will be in 6 months. And that's your story. Christy said when she started her wedding business, she said, I'm going to give myself, she's working in the nonprofit space. She needed money because nonprofit is
not profitable.
Nonprofit is not profitable. And she's like, I'm going to give myself 6 months, go hard at this wedding, photography thing. And if it cracks, I'll do it. If it doesn't, I'll stop. And you cracked it, which is so cool because you gave yourself 6 months and you really, really went at it.
Yeah.
I think people just really, really, really overestimate how long it takes to do something well.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
It's hard because I think maybe I'm not the right person to talk to if you're trying to be super scrappy with things. Because I think my personality trait has always been super calculative.
Yeah.
I've always put like, I think the best quality is the best quality. Or I think that
Of course.
Yeah.
like people say like, oh, well, done is better than perfect, which is true, but I'm also like perfect is perfect. So like, so like,
I'm like
love
the
that.
opposite of you.
I
I'm
love
like
that.
done is better
No,
than
that's
so
perfect.
good. But
it's
here's what I'm
good.
saying.
Yeah.
I'm
It's good to have
saying,
the
do you
duality.
believe that people take themselves out of the game and they sideline themselves because they're unwilling to believe that in 6 months their life could be totally different?
100%. I think typically, I think typically people underestimate what they're capable of. I think in general, most people underestimate what they're capable of.
Yes.
Like,
I'm sure we all do.
yeah,
totally
I'm sure all of us in
agree.
this room do too. Like,
Yeah.
even though it might not seem that way when you're listening to this, but I have self-doubt all the time.
Yeah,
like,
same.
I think people just typically underestimate what they can accomplish. And I think
Yeah.
if you're listening to this and you feel like it's at the cusp, like you know you can do it, or maybe you're like, I have self-doubt, just know that everyone has self-doubt. Like
Yeah.
I've spoken to people who are millionaires doing what we do, and they're still like, oh, I don't know, I'm tweaking this, I'm tweaking that.
Not
I know it's
sure.
bad, I want to make this better. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, shoot. That's humbling because
Yeah.
that means even like 10 years from now, I'm still gonna be like, oh, this is bad, this is tweaking. Like, it's an ongoing process. And I
Yeah.
think once you accept the fact that success is an ongoing process, it's the journey, and you just hop on, whether you hop on the train like 10 years ago, whether you hop on the train now, like the fact that you're on the train and it's moving one direction is the most important thing. Like most people, like you said, they just sideline themselves. They're like sitting on the side, waiting for something to happen, not taking action. And yeah, when you literally don't take action, you are gonna miss everything in front of you. Like,
missed the boat.
you need to take action.
Yeah.
For sure.
So here's the question I want to wrap up with. We were talking about this at lunch, and I think
Yeah.
this is so relatable. This is probably one of the most relatable things I've ever heard in the sphere of business. You said that you get to the end of the year, you see how much money you made, it surprises you in a good way, and then you go, gosh, I'm never going to make that much money again.
No, literally that
That is
happens
so relatable.
every year. Like, and this is some hopefully comforting to some creatives who are running their own business. I quit my job back in 2018. So it's been almost 6-7 years now doing what I love. But every year, because I've consciously chose the decision to do what I love, I have fear that like I won't be able to do it again the year after. Like, every year my business has grown a little bit each year. Some actually early years, it was actually more exponential. Like
Yeah, of
I was
course,
like
it's-
doubling my
it's
income.
doubling,
Like
Yes.
the first 3 years I was like, okay, this is crazy. This is crazy. Now it's like it's leveled out a little bit more.
Stabilizes.
It stabilizes. But even then, like because it's stabilized at a higher level, every year when I do my taxes, I'm like, January's rolling around next month. I'm like, how the heck am I gonna make this much money again next year if I'm to be on this like linear growth curve for my business? But the funny thing about running your own business is that it's fully in your control. And that is the beauty of running your own thing.
Yeah.
That is the beauty of like being able to put your all into something. Like if you did it once, you can do it again. Like that's like a life message. It doesn't matter with money, it's anything. If you did it once, you can do it again. And so my whole thing was, even though I get super fearful every year, somehow every year that goes by, it gets a little bit better each year.
Yeah.
And I amaze
You beat it
myself
every
every
year.
year. I'm always like,
Yeah.
okay, that's crazy. That's crazy. Like it doesn't really change. But I think it's not to say that it just happens randomly. I think subconsciously that I'm constantly striving for more in a way, and I'm constantly striving to better myself. And I think when you strive to better yourself, everything else kind of just follows. I think the moment you're like, you know what? I don't want to better myself. I'm going to slack here. I'm not going to make the investment. I'm not going to go hit the gym. I'm not going to, you start like, going backwards for yourself, you won't get that effect. And I don't get me wrong, I believe in rest. Like I think no one should be like a workaholic.
Yeah.
There needs to be like good work-life balance. But yeah, to answer your question, it's a funny, super funny, relatable thing that happens to everyone. Like as a freelancer, every year it goes, you think it's gonna change and it just gets better. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I know that there are people listening to this, maybe they're on the other end of the spectrum. Maybe they did have like a really killer year, and then the year after it didn't pan out for them.
Yeah.
But what's great about running your own thing is that that's not economical sometimes it's like, okay, can we go back to the drawing board? What can we do to like
Yeah.
make it better? And it's in your control.
Yes.
And I think being able to say that your business is in your control is stressful, but also that's why you get to
Freeing.
reap the rewards,
Yeah.
you know?
Absolutely. I love that.
You eat what you kill. You eat what you kill. I said that to my ADHD coach the other day, and she was like, "What?" I said, I eat what I kill." So that's what I love about being self-employed. I get to go, whatever I kill, I get to eat. Do the mahi, get the treats, as they say in New Zealand. That's what they say. I love that.
That's
quote.
actually good though.
They say,
Like,
do the
that's
mahi, get the treats.
That's exactly
Anybody
what
listening
it
to this
is.
from New Zealand, shout out to you guys.
Shout out to you.
And this has been awesome, bro. Thanks for being on the pod. The last two questions. First of all, where can people find you? Where can they connect with you?
At Edward Lee Films on all platforms.
Cool.
Yeah.
Love it.
Great.
And our signature last question is we word it in different ways every time, but it's basically, why is it worth it? If you could go back to 2017 Ed and say, hey, I'm seeing your future, this is why it's going to be worth it, what would you say?
Can you say that one more time?
Why is everything you've ever done,
Like,
to
why is
build- to
pursuing a
build the
creative
career-
business worth it? Like,
Yeah.
for someone that's like, I really want to, is it worth the time, effort, all that kind of stuff?
sacrifice, risk, fear? Why is
personally.
all of those things that you've gone through that's gotten you here? Would you do it again, and why?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of things that I would do differently if I had like a time machine. But I think that it's more deeper on like a life level. I think that life needs to be exciting. It needs to be like constantly changing. And I think that the creative field that we're in, like, it really gets you that. Because the industry is always changing. Like, things are always moving, brands are always coming and going, clients always need new videos, and like, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and being able to say that like I put my name on something is huge. You know, and I think that when people typically think of like putting their name on something and like really being proud, they constantly think about like a business that's like huge and like I started that business. But sometimes it's like as simple as like making a reel and putting on your social and saying that like I made that reel. It could be small. And I
Yeah.
think that I love that. I love that process of seeing something that was like absolutely nothing. Like it was like an idea in your
Creating
in your
value
head,
from scratch. Yeah.
and then like turning it into something. And I think that's what keeps me like coming back to it.
I love that.
And why it makes me like this whole process is worth it for me, because regardless of the monetary value, which is funny because as you know, like when you focus on not the money, somehow the money comes. Like when you focus on the money, you just struggle. Like it's weird. Like so when you just focus on the creative work and you focus on bettering yourself, everything else kind of naturally like falls into place. And I think that one thing I love to say on podcasts is there's some people who work jobs, like regular 9-to-5 jobs, don't run their own business. Like that I've realized as I'm getting older too in my age, like that's totally fine. Most people sometimes think like, oh, I gotta run my own thing, I gotta be my own boss, which is fine. But like it comes with a plethora of like other stresses that
Yes. Yeah,
maybe
comes
you
with a cost.
aren't like stressing about at your current job.
Yes.
Life always has stresses. It doesn't really matter where you are. Just it's like choose your hard though. Like there's always gonna be hard, but like choose your hard. Do you want hard over here? Do you want hard over there? For
Yeah.
me, I want hard knowing like the risk that comes with like starting my own YouTube channel, starting my own business, like trying to get a pitch deck that doesn't happen. But if it does happen, like that's crazy. Like I want that hard.
Yeah.
I don't want the hard of like, what am I doing with my career?
I love it.
Yeah, choose your hard. That's a
Yep.
good way to end
Wrap
it.
up with that. Choose
That's
your hard.
awesome.
Dude, thanks for being on the
Yes,
pod, dude.
Ed, thank you so
This is
much
awesome,
for
bro.
being with
Yeah.
us. And yeah, everyone go follow Ed. That was awesome, awesome, awesome. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having
Let's go,
me.
baby.
Let's go.
Such a good episode. Hopefully that was so fun for you to listen to and you got a ton of value out of it.
Yeah.
Real quick, couple reminders. The next month of the Creative Rise schedule is going to be so valuable for you. A couple things coming up. Number one, for the first time in like 6-ish months, we're opening up the
Yeah.
application for the Creative Rise Mastermind, which is our 6-week business incubator to help you build a foundation to build your own 6-figure business. That's coming up. September 1st is when applications go live to the public, which is so exciting. We start September 15th and go for 6 weeks. So we are getting geared up for that. Can't wait wait to meet the 35-ish around their businesses that we're going to work with for the last part of 2024, and even earlier than that.
Yeah, we have our 6-figure creator live workshop. Again, it's completely free. This is just something we love to do for the community, to just infuse as much business knowledge as we possibly can in a short, like, hour and a half, 2 hours. And again, it's totally live. Joey and I are there hosting the whole thing. We're going to be talking about the 5 trends and tools to help you build a successful creative business in the next year.
Yeah.
We're going to do live Q&A. It's going to be a ton of fun, so don't miss it, but you have to register for your spot. It's totally free, but you got to register if you want to get on into it. So how can people do that, Joey?
Yeah, so we're actually only taking 150 spots because we want it to be intimate enough where we can actually field questions and give people good answers to their questions as they are learning everything we're going to be talking about in the workshop. So go to creativerise.com/workshop. It's in the Instagram bio, on our socials. It's all over the place. It's in the description here. Anywhere you're seeing this podcast, you can see it there. creativerise.com/workshop for your free 6-figure creator workshop. Coming up August 28th, 4:30 Pacific Standard Time. We cannot wait to see you there. We'll catch you soon. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. See you next week.